Welcome to the Geek Homeworld. I am your host, SavageTechman. We talk sci-fi, TV, movies, superheroes, and all from a geek perspective. You can find us on Blogger, Google+, Twitter, Facebook. We're everywhere. Join the Geek Homeworld. Hello everyone, welcome to the Geek Homeworld review of 2015. I'm Ed and I'm joined by Cheryl.
Hello.
Hello. As we wrap up this year, we are taking a look back at some of the biggest moments of the geek year.
Before we get to the things that happened on movies and television, let's start with some really shocking real-life things that happened this year. First of all, the ZombieCon shooting in Fort Myers, Florida, probably the most shocking. The city voted recently to move that annual event from its downtown location where it had been for 9 years, saying that it was now too big for the site. And so it's looking for other locations. Some other cities are saying they might be interested, but there's still no suspect that has been identified in that shooting. And so the family of the young man who was killed has filed wrongful death lawsuits against the event's organizers and their security company. And the city of Fort Myers has invested almost $500,000 to install 49 security cameras for their New Year celebrations this week. So they're taking it, very seriously. They want to make sure nothing like that happens there. It's really a shame. It's really a shame that these things have to happen.
Well, we also had a very close call when Harrison Ford, he was flying his airplane and he crashed it on a golf course back in March of 2015, and he was severely injured, which included a few days of amnesia that were caused by the anesthesia that he received. But thankfully he recovered in time to make the rounds for promoting Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
He was more out there than anybody, really. And he's the oldest and the most injured.
And he got paid about 76 times what
it'll do.
Yeah. Plus he got a 0.5% of or something like that of the gross.
So we were lucky that we did not lose him, but we did, of course, have a number of folks that we did lose. So in memoriam, this year we lost some of our old-time favorites, including the original Jimmy Olsen, Jack Larson, who was on The Adventures of Superman back in the 1950s. Yvonne Craig, who was Batgirl in the 1960s. One of my favorites, Grace Lee Whitney, who played Janice Rand on the original Star Trek and several of the Star Trek films. And then again on both Voyager and then on some of the web series that came out later. Martin E. Brooks, who was one of the first actors to appear as the same character on more than one show. And he, of course, played Dr. Rudy Wells on The $6 Million Man.
One of my most favorite all-time shows growing up.
And The Bionic Woman, one of my favorites, back in the 1970s. And another longtime actor, was around active for a long time, but really became super famous towards the end of his career, and that is Sir Christopher Lee.
Yes. Who
is better known for his role as Saruman in the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit trilogies, and, of course, as Count Dooku in the Star Wars prequels.
Well, he lost a couple hands. So.
Everybody does.
Yeah, everybody does in Star Wars. Behind the camera, we lost Maurice Hurley, the Star Trek The Next Generation writer who had Gates McFadden fired.
What a claim to fame.
I know, and you know how I feel about the other doctor that replaced her.
Dr. Pulaski was fine.
She got all smart and all standoffish with Picard, and I didn't like that.
Well, but once Maurice was gone, Gates came back, and Pulaski went on her way.
Good. But we also lost Oscar-winning art director Joanne Woolard of Gravity fame. Mm-hmm. The legendary director Wes Craven, a lot of great horror movies, one of the giants in that portion of the industry. And Harve Bennett, the even more legendary producer behind The Mod Squad, a favorite show of mine, The $6 Million Man,
you already said
The Bionic Woman, and Star Trek, The Wrath of Khan.
He'd never seen Star Trek, and he saw the motion picture, thought it was boring.
Yeah,
I kind of agree. They said, well, do you think you can do better? He said, yeah. So he watched all of the series and then hooked on to Khan and
Yeah.
came up with the Wrath of Khan. So brilliant.
Brilliant decision there. And wow, I'm seeing a lot of things. We lost a lot of superhero related stuff.
Yeah.
People in real life. We also said goodbye to Harrison Ford's ex-wife, Melissa Matheson, who was Oscar-winning screenwriter of E.T. the Extraterrestrial, which was directed by the great Steven Spielberg, who is also directing her last project, the BFG, which is scheduled for release in 2016.
But probably the biggest loss to all geeks everywhere was the death of the brilliant Leonard Nimoy.
Yes, most definitely.
He was incredibly talented as an actor, a writer, director, and producer, and his career did expand well beyond Star Trek.
Yes.
But he will be forever remembered for creating the role of Spock.
Live long and prosper. And for a more complete list and more details about all these talented people, visit our blog at geekhomeworld.blogspot.com.
Now, let's get to the really fun part, our best and worst geek moments of 2016.
Okay, here we go. The meat and potatoes of it. I've been waiting.
So, what would you say was the best fight scene this year?
Well, from a movie we haven't seen yet, just because we haven't been able to, but Creed, I promise you it's got a lot of great fight scenes.
I'm sure it has great fight scenes, so it's probably right up there.
The Rocky movie kind of passing the torch there, and it's got excellent reviews. I've got some friends who've seen it already that just loved it.
Well, and it's going to be really hard not to talk about Star Wars and everything we talk about.
Yeah, that small little budget movie that we just heard about.
But, I mean, so many great fight scenes there. Probably the one that people are talking about the most is the snow battle between
Kylo
Ren versus Finn and Rey.
And then Rey picks up on it, and
where she finally realizes she has the Force,
and she's not afraid to use it.
And she's more powerful than he is, clearly. What about the best battle?
The first flight of the Millennium Falcon. When I saw the trailer and the first Star Wars trailer, and the music kicked in, and they said the dark has awakened and the light, and then it shows the Millennium Falcon doing that maneuver, and I was a little put off when I realized that was Rey doing that. I thought that was Han Solo.
Not Han Solo. Well, and actually, the third time that we saw the film, I was sitting with a friend of ours who, although was definitely around for the release of the first movies, has not seen any of the previous six films. Movies. None of them. So this was her very first Star Wars movie. And after that scene, she said, "Wow, that was exciting."
I was going to tell her there were only 4 movies. 4, 5,
she's usually pretty reserved, 4, 5, but she's like calling out in the theater. So clearly that was a great battle scene.
Yes.
What would you say was the best close call?
Well, this was something that had people driving around looking under dumpsters and waiting and waiting and waiting. Glenn from The Walking Dead in the dumpster.
Miraculous recovery.
His miraculous recovery.
And they waited, almost a month to let us know whether he was dead or alive?
And gave us a standalone episode about other characters, and we're like, what?
Yeah, after one show after another, and we're like, where's Glenn?
Yeah.
I don't think they could have survived if Glenn had not survived. I don't know. The fans were ready to riot.
The fans are ready to riot on that.
What would you say, who gave the best emotional performance this year?
The emotion of sadness from the movie Inside Out.
I love all of the emotions on Inside Out, but I have to say sadness is joy is a little annoying, but sadness...
Yeah, too much joy can drive you crazy.
Sadness and anger, too, but sadness is my favorite. Anger is hilarious.
Definitely.
Okay, now this is a hard one.
This is a very hard one.
There are lots to choose from, so it's hard to narrow this down. Who is the best villain of 2015?
Very difficult. Ultron from Avengers Age of Ultron.
There are no strings on me.
Yeah, I know. Messed up Pinocchio forever. And James Spader doing the voice was just perfect.
Beautiful. But you can't forget...
Obviously, the whiny little brat. I mean, most hated person in the galaxy, Kylo Ren.
But you know what? I have to say, I also think another great villain from Star Wars The Force Awakens is General Hux.
When he was giving that big speech especially, and he was...
evil, Nazi, Hitler. Well, and there's something, there's a real rivalry between him and Kylo Ren. They're going to try to out-evil each other, I think. I am the most evil lord.
Right.
What do you think has been the best TV show this year?
The Walking Dead, and tied very closely for me is Game of Thrones.
You know, I have to say, even though these are not new films, these are new shows, these are, you know, tried and true. These are really the only two shows that I have appointment television. Everything else, I DVR, I watch it when I can. But both of these shows, I have to watch it when it's on.
And
I might not be watching it when it's on in my time zone. I may be watching it when it's on in the next time zone. But definitely the night that it's on.
It's very close to our time zone.
I'm going to be watching it. I usually just do DVR it to get through the commercials, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Having said that, though, we also had some shows that were canceled.
And one that was our favorite, one of our favorites forever.
And only one season.
One season, and it was gone before its time.
So much. I mean, I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was very clever. So I was sad to learn that it had been canceled, but I guess it just couldn't get enough traction.
Yeah, and another show that you didn't watch, but I was really getting into was Minority Report. Now, I liked the original movie, Spielberg movie, but it was also canceled after just one season.
First season, right. But there were a lot of new shows, so I guess we were lucky that so many survived. So what do you think was the best new TV show, other than those two?
Best brand new TV show this year was Fear the Walking Dead. Just from the opening theme of it was just so. It was there were a lot of hardcore Walking Dead fans that don't like the show as much, but I felt Fear the Walking Dead is very important.
Well, and we talked to some folks who work on the Walking Dead set, and they said, you know, everybody at the Walking Dead is not a fan of Fear the Walking Dead. It's a very different show.
It's kind of like your younger brother or something. You don't want to hanging around with you.
Cooler younger brother.
Yeah,
a little bit smarter.
I don't know.
But I think it's great. A lot of superhero TV shows going on. What do you think are the best superhero TV?
Hands down, probably The Flash and Arrow. The Flash is a little bit more lighthearted, but they do crossover episodes. Arrow has been very intense this season. It wasn't as intense, but then, my gosh, it ended on a very high note.
And they're crossing over quite a bit.
Yeah, they are, and their universes are existing in the same worlds and
same time,
and so that's a good thing. That's a good thing to bring the characters together.
But a new superhero TV show.
The best
Supergirl.
Supergirl. Enjoy it. It's more lighthearted, but
it's very light. And you know, for me, as much as I don't like how dark maybe some of the shows are, this one tends a little bit maybe too light for me. But I'm surprised at the people who are
Man
watching
of Steel and all the stuff that we get with Superman is supposed to be more lighthearted and it's darker. Mm-hmm. But Supergirl is refreshingly brighter.
I think it's really good. I think it's really good for young girls intense, especially. But I'm impressed with how many like super geeks are watching that show.
Yeah.
This was also, you know, it's always fun to see the superstars who get excited and want to be part of other shows. So who do you think made the best cameo this year?
Well, one of them was on Supergirl, ironically, Jon Jones, a.k.a. the Martian Manhunter, and he's one of the Justice League members that just doesn't get enough respect. He's as powerful, and he's got some powers beyond Superman's powers, but he's Mars' sole survivor, and there's a reason for that. And there's a Smallville quote. But also... Yeah,
to go back to Star Wars The Force Awakens... Two great cameos in there.
We had Daniel Craig in The Force Awakens.
He's the stormtrooper who gets forced by Rey to let her escape.
Yeah,
I thought that was a great performance.
And he said he just wanted to be in Star Wars, and they were filming.
Obviously, you can't tell it's him.
Yeah,
Same
you can't
thing.
tell it's him.
The other cameo, Simon Pegg, one of my very favorites. And,
who has probably an even more important role.
He has more scenes. I think we're going to see more of his character in the future.
But sorry, Simon Pegg. We got to give it to Daniel Craig. He had a funnier one.
He just had a better role. You know, he had less screen time, but a better role altogether.
Yes.
How about superhero movie?
There were two that came out that were very big, but if I got to choose, Avengers: Age of Ultron would be my favorite. Also, Ant-Man with Paul Rudd. I
enjoyed Ant-Man, and I think it's a lot of fun. But you know, if you had to choose between them, I would definitely say Avengers: Ultron. Yeah. That is just a more complex film.
Yeah,
Ant-Man's more fun. Best sci-fi. Does this even need to be answered?
Yes, it does.
If Star you all don't know, obviously.
Force Awakens.
Best film of the century so far, probably.
Yeah, it's already made $1 billion in like 2 weeks.
Exactly. They paid for the budget like day 2.
Yeah, or just about.
Another category that's sort of wide open, though, is spy movie. What do you think was the best action-adventure spy movie this year?
That was pretty hard. One of the standouts was Daniel Craig's John, hopefully not his last as 007, but the movie Spectre.
I enjoyed parts of it, but I think as a whole film,
It wasn't as good as Skyfall for me, but it was still a good Bond movie.
I really liked Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, which was my first Mission Impossible.
And I
didn't think I was going to like it.
I liked it. Ghost Protocol I liked a little bit better, but kind of like Skyfall versus Spectre, but I still love both of those movies.
And Man from U.N.C.L.E., I didn't know what to expect, but I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
I thought it was going to be a throwaway movie, hark back
it was better than I
to an
thought
old
it would be.
TV series, but with...
you got to enjoy Henry Cavill and Armie Hammer.
Exactly. And then another one was a very surprise hit, Kingsman: The Secret Service, which I enjoyed.
I mean, it comes across as sort of one of those kooky British films, but it was darker than I thought it was going to be, for sure, but it was good. But I think out of all of those, I would have to go with Mission Impossible as the best.
It's hard for me. I might go with Spectre, but I don't know.
I would definitely not go with Spectre. There were several animated movies this year, but I think there's a clear standout.
Inside Out.
Inside Out, for sure.
With all those emotions. How could you not?
Others were just sort of disappointing. Speaking of what do you think is the biggest disappointment?
We actually watched it finally. The other night and fell asleep during most of it. We finally watched it through, but Pixels with Adam Sandler and Peter Dinklage.
And sometimes Adam Sandler films are great and sometimes they are not. So you don't know what you're going to get when you go to one. But I thought Peter Dinklage is in there. It's got to be good. But it was just dumb.
I don't know.
It had potential, but it was dumb. Mm-hmm. For sure. How about Best Action Adventure? This is more your category than mine.
I have a couple favorites in here. Furious 7, obviously. Non-stop action. The Fast and Furious movies. Another one was one of my favorites, Terminator Genesis, The Return of Schwarzenegger. And I was so excited for that. And it did not let me down. And then there's another one coming out that we're not sure about yet because it hasn't come out that you're really interested in.
I'm really interested in it because I've seen stuff about the true story, but I'm sick of the trailer. But I want to go see The Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio. And his films are usually pretty good.
It looks like, he's a good actor. He's a really good actor.
I just want to go see it and be done with it.
Okay.
So hopefully that's going to be good. How about, this was a year of The Woman, I think. So who do you think was
ladies are bursting out on TV
best female
and everywhere
lead?
else. Daisy Ridley as Rey in Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
I think she's brilliant.
She just owned that movie, and she just gave a strong performance. All the performances are strong, but for a female lead, definitely.
Well, and I think on TV we have to go back to The Walking Dead and the way that the women there have progressed from always doing the laundry to now kicking some zombie behind with Denai Guerrera as Michonne, your favorite.
That is definitely my favorite.
And Melissa McBride as Scarol.
It's Carol. That's really good instead of Carol. Scarol's awesome.
Another runaway best director. Clearly no competition.
Had it gone the wrong way, he would have been the Jar Jar Abrams of the universe, but J.J. Abrams for The Force Awakens. Wow.
Well, and in the lead up to the film, he actually revealed that on the day that Harrison Ford broke his leg on the set, he broke his back trying to help him. He broke one of the vertebrae in his back. So he broke his back making that movie for us.
Well, they got enough money to pay for it.
It clearly shows.
Buy a new back if you need to.
Now, this isn't a category that we normally spend a lot of time on in the geek world, but who do you think has had the best romance this year?
Besides us?
Oh.
Amy and Sheldon of The Big Bang Theory, and they finally had their big bang.
I thought it was very well done, the way that they broke them up, and then they slowly brought them back together, and then, he's just very practical. Well, what kind of birthday gift should I give her?
Yeah. And then he comes over and kisses her, and it leads to other things.
Very good, very good. What do you think was the biggest surprise this year?
A movie that had Stinker written all over it. It had straight-to-video on it. San Andreas with The Rock, and we loved our disaster movies.
And Carla Gugino.
Yeah, but it was pretty good.
I love disaster movies, usually because they're super cheeky, super silly, like 2012. But
Oh, yeah.
this was actually pretty good. And actually, well, I mean, it's still unbelievable, but pretty good.
I love the next category.
Which film has the least dialogue?
And a badass movie at that. Mad Max Fury Road.
I don't know. Maybe I would have liked it better if they talked.
But, the movie was good until they had to go back and just basically undo everything they did.
It's like we came all this way for nothing.
Now we're turning back.
Now, one of the things we run into in following science fiction is whether or not the science is true. So which do you think is the best science?
The Martian. And we watched
For
some
sure.
documentaries online about that. And it said they'd had the closest use of science.
Well, they worked really closely with NASA.
It wasn't
on
like Gravity, even though I enjoyed Gravity. It felt more real. There were some things that, not 100%, but still.
So, who would you say was the most underused character across the geek world?
Definitely Captain Phasma. She looked badass, and
But she ended up being kind of not badass at all.
she just got pushed around by Finn in The Force Awakens, but I don't know.
Who's in charge now?
No one knows.
So hopefully she's gonna have a bigger role in it. But first she's got to escape from the trash compactor, I guess.
Awesome.
Best tantrum.
Kylo Ren, what a little whiny little... He might as well be a Skywalker.
Which tantrum, though? I mean, he has so many tantrums.
I know. He'll show you the nature of the dark side. What is it, crying? There's no crying in Ren's.
My favorite, though, is when he discovers that Rey has escaped and he's using his lightsaber to destroy that room, and the two stormtroopers come around the corner and they're like,
oh, we're good.
let's go back the other way. They're like, Ren's at it again. He's
Right.
lost his mind. How about the best use of humor?
Star Wars The Force Awakens. I wasn't expecting much humor, and all the characters, Finn, he's a big deal.
He's a big deal in the Resistance.
Yeah. But remember, women always find out the truth.
That's for true. Well, and I have to say there was a lot more humor in Ant-Man than I expected.
Yeah,
I thought that
Paul
was very fun. And then
And the Man from
The
Uncle.
Man from Uncle. Yeah, definitely.
I had a lot of fun.
I didn't know it was going to be funny at all.
That would be kind of boring. But it's good.
A lot of good cinematography this year, but which one do you think stands out the most?
Definitely Everest.
Yes.
You felt like you were there.
And it underperformed, though. I mean, I'm really surprised.
Yeah, they tried to put it out in IMAX first and then out the regular theaters, and it was a bad strategy. I don't know.
It was a bad combination of things, I guess, and it's just not going to be the same if you didn't see it on the screen.
You had to see that in IMAX 3D.
Well, I mean, you
it.
at least had to see it in a movie screen. To watch it on your phone is not going to do it justice.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think? We keep coming up with these the reboots. So, which do you think was the most disappointing reboot?
Point Break. I just really didn't want to see it.
Well,
awesome.
it looked like it would be a fun film, but then when I knew it was Point Break, I thought, well, this is not going to be good, and it's had terrible reviews. I don't have any desire. In fact, one review I read said, just see the original. Skip this one altogether.
Yeah.
How about the best chase scene?
Spectre with 007, Daniel Craig, the Rome chase sequence.
I love that he's on the phone with Moneypenny the whole time.
Yeah.
And, it's great stunt driving, and it made me think about when you go to Disney Studios and you can see the stunt car show there.
Oh, yeah, where they go backwards and
I know.
sideways
It's like, I know how they're doing this now. But I have to say, I also enjoyed the opening chase in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. when they're in Berlin and they have the old cars, and they're like super pushing those old cars, and they get wedged between the building
it's
and
funny.
climb into the upper story. I mean, it's just a lot of fun.
The next one's one of my favorite categories here.
What do you think is the worst father-son moment?
When Kylo Ren kills Han Solo. Talk about some daddy issues.
Well, I mean, I'm hoping we're going to find out why Kylo Ren hates Han so much, because that's not at all clear.
There's a lot of speculation out there. But if Han Solo had to go, this is probably the best way, and he really did.
I mean, he broke his leg. I mean, how many more of these is he going to shoot?
Yeah.
He's
he
in
might
his
crash
70s.
another plane. Let's hope not. But it was great seeing Carrie Fisher and all the crew come back.
Well, speaking of comebacks and old guys, who do you think made the best comeback into the movies this year?
It was definitely Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator Genesis. I definitely was excited to see that. see him come back. And that next to Terminator 2, that was my favorite of those.
What about the biggest movie disappointment?
The biggest disappointment was Fantastic Four. It should have been called Unfantastic Four.
Well, there were a lot, though. I mean, Tomorrowland.
I didn't even care to see it.
No, Jupiter Ascending.
Wanted to see
Chappie.
it, but yeah, I wanted to see Chappie too.
Good Dinosaur. Just a lot of I mean, luckily there was a lot of really great stuff and a lot of stuff to get you excited. So, what do you think was the best movie trailer?
Every Star Wars The Force Awakens trailer got better and better. That's
just because everybody was like, what can I find out?
Any information we wanted.
I don't want to spoil, but I want to know everything.
And thank you for all the people who, we were included, who did not spoil it before the majority of people saw it. But also, a movie I'm looking forward to, and we're going to be talking in the future more about, Captain America Civil War, the trailer for that. Oh, my.
Well, Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, too. I think that the most recent trailer is the best because I really wasn't interested in the film until I saw the most recent trailer. Now I'm like, I think I really want to see that movie.
And then Wonder Woman in action is awesome, too.
Well, I definitely was not looking forward to Wonder Woman in that film, but now I'm like, yeah, I think I could like this.
Another strong female lead. And X-Men Apocalypse, I enjoyed that trailer. I've been looking for that movie since the 90s.
Yeah, I think you talked about it for 3 hours on one episode.
I did an episode of both of those, I think. Both of those trailers.
So what do you think was the most underrated movie?
Definitely Terminator Genesis. And like I said, it's only second to Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And in fact, it really flipped the script on a lot of things, but it was great to see Arnold back.
Well, whenever you time travel, you kind of flip the script.
Well, it totally turned it on its ear, and it was exciting, and I enjoyed it thoroughly, and it's one of the Blu-rays I bought that never opened, so that means I really liked it.
Okay. So, out of all the films and television and everything in the geek universe, what do you think was the number one geek experience of the year?
Hands down, Star Wars The Force Awakens. It's still blowing out box office records. Crossed $1 billion this weekend.
We tried to get into a film yesterday. It was sold out. We had to wait for another show.
Another IMAX, and it was sold out. And so we went to the regular one. It was still awesome.
Yeah, I think it did a really great job of answering questions while creating a bunch of new questions that we can explore in the next film.
Couple films, yeah. So there's always something to look forward to. So don't forget to tune in next week when we will preview the can't miss moments of 2016. I'm excited about it. I hope you are too. Happy New Year to everyone, and thank you for listening.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Geek Homeworld podcast with your host, SavageTechman. You can find us on Libsyn, Google+, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, listen to us on iTunes, see us on YouTube, be part of our Mixler chats. Thank you. See you again on the Geek Homeworld podcast.